He
Mm-hmm.
had called me, he was trying to get out his business and all that. Sure.
Mine's back on.
I know one of them got turned real low. Like,
Oh. How do you know if it's, is it me?
your son's pretty
Uh,
low.
this one's number 6.
It's gotta be you, because you're not even close to it.
No, I'm not close to it. You can turn mine right down. I'm pretty sure people can hear me. Okay. Is that right? I don't know. I was told people even on the YouTube can hear me. And a rock concert? Who's got to join?
Well, cancel the meeting.
Cancel the meeting? All right. I'm ready for a nap, I can tell you that. Hey, I'm getting old. I didn't get one today. Yes, yes. I had four different citizens today, this afternoon. Is it? Oh, jeez. Yeah, it is 5 o'clock. We ready to roll, folks?
Let's do it,
Everyone,
Mikey.
you good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Would everyone please welcome to the Town of Shenango Town Board meeting. Would you join me in pledge allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag, of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Warden,
Here.
Mr. Simonis,
Here.
Mr. Johnson. Here. Mr. Hulbert,
Here.
Mr. Lumsden.
Here. Mr. Clerk, any communications?
No communications.
I do have a statement I'd like to make. Last weekend, we lost Alita Kenny. She was a resident of the town her whole entire life. She was always very active in the community. She was also on our ZBA for many years. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we lost a good citizen. David?
I'd like to say that I went to her funeral yesterday, and it was brought up how important she was to the town and how much she loved it, and it was brought out very plainly what each one meant to each other, the town and her. She was a very nice person.
Yes. So, just wanted to get that on the record. All right, we're gonna move I feel like my mic is extremely loud. Is it? I'm number 6.
You're good.
Yeah, we're good? Okay. I'll try to whisper. Open forum. Guests shall speak in an orderly fashion, are limited of remarks of 5 minutes or less. Speakers shall deliver their comments or concerns in a civil tone and without the use of profanity, personal attacks, or other disruptive behavior. The speakers shall not be interrupted except in a matter of emergency. Would anyone like to speak tonight? Mr. Boland.
I have a small project that I have addressed the town prior, and I would like to, these are plans that we had offered before. And I have a parcel of property. Let's see, enough to get around.
Thank you. Sorry. Thanks, Mike. Yep.
Maybe you don't need a picture. So, projects of mine which I sold and have come to the town. Originally, when they bought the parcel in back, we were gonna tie it in with the driveway, but it made it easier for Burned Dairy to get approved with the DOT with the driveway. This, I own the property in the back, Mr. Smith passed. We bought the property and we were just gonna rent the house and it was deemed unlivable. So we took it down, we have vacant land. The problem is I have non-conforming use behind the property, which is my old bowling shop. And I have commercial property in the front, being the Burned Dairy, Sonic, the gas station. And I'm on the edge of a residential and it's zoned residential. What I'm looking to do is transition that piece of property into something usable and yet would fit in the neighborhood. And other than a car wash or a gas station, I thought this multi-family, higher-end townhouse type effect would fit. It's a bridge between commercial and it's a bridge between residential without being offensive. It has everything there, sewer, water, and gas. And the important part, I think the average person wouldn't want to buy the lot, build a house, and look at those things. But sometimes if you're a renter and you had a townhouse, you don't have all those options. And if you don't like it, then you go somewhere else. So I think it would fit the neighborhood, it would put it back on the tax roll, and I think it's been sitting there long enough that we should be able to get it planning to at least have, and we see what we could do to get it on some kind of a tax roll other than just sitting there vacant residential property. I did own both sides, and I probably had a better chance at it when I did own both sides, but still it's in the middle, and it's kind of become, you know, it's just sits there. So I'm asking if I could get it sent on forward. I know we're doing some additional things in the town, and it's not that far off from maybe Twin Estates. You know, they're butted by commercial on one side, residential on the other, ag across the street, which will eventually become commercial. So this property is really not a lot different than any of those, and it just sits there vacant. So that's my thought, and I'd just like to see if I could get on the, whatever I gotta do to,
So you're asking for a zoning change?
I am.
Okay. How many acres is that, Mike?
It's like an acre and a quarter, acre and a half. It's just, it's over an acre, I do remember that.
Now, does that property have sewer and water
Sewer, water, and gas.
and gas? Good. All right. All right.
All right?
Yep, thank you.
Any questions or anything for me?
End of the meeting, we'll see if we get you on the.
Perfect.
yeah,
Well-
Thank you.
Well, no,
Oh.
it's not a future topic issue, it's an applicant issue. You've just got, there's a process, Mike, that you've got to fill out the paperwork, the application for the zoning, and go through that process.
Right.
Before
But I
that,
gotta get to the
But-
planning board first.
I'm just saying,
For the
I-
recommendation, correct, Mr. Holder?
right, it's not a future topic issue for the board as it is right now until there's an application for the zoning.
Where I was going with that is we're still in the public speaking part.
Right.
So I was gonna have a discussion with the board if we're going to ask the planning board for a review.
So,
For-
Mike, what Gene is saying
Hold
is, Mr. Bolin needs to submit a petition for rezoning with any supporting information that he has like that. That will then come to the town board at the time that he applies. At that time, you folks will decide whether to refer it to the planning board.
Yeah, to wait, just to wait at the end of the meeting to kick it off 2 weeks.
I was just trying to get back to the citizens.
No, it's not, I understand what you're saying, but it's not,
Okay.
it's not an issue, it's just,
Mr.
that's
Boland,
the
do you understand
process.
the process that you gotta do?
Yeah.
As long as you do, I'm good with it.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Would anyone else care to speak? Hearing none, we're gonna move on with our agenda. Old business, 5.1, 600 Wisconsin Drive Treatment Plant discussion. Everyone sees all the documents? What's the consensus of the board that, where you wanna go with this, gentlemen?
Is the discussion that the town purchased their property, or Is that what we're discussing, or?
That's
Ju-
one of the options on there, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, it is an option. Proceed as designed,
Or just
proceed
go
as
on as
designed.
designed, yeah.
Yep. Anyone wanna make a motion, one way or the other?
I personally make a motion to go on as designed.
I will second that to further the conversation. Is there any conversation regarding this?
So we have an issue with the stuff that are outside the right-of-way. And I know that you gave us the two options.
Yeah, and those are mentioned on page 3 of the Barton and LaJudas memo. It outlines both of the clearly legal options that you have to address it.
But that's just for the removal of the old panel board.
Correct.
Right.
So, not to try to completely segregate it, but moving forward as designed doesn't affect the removal at this point.
I thought that was part of,
It is,
it's part of the project.
it is, but it's not something that's holding the project up.
And actually, Jay, to be clear, removal of those panels was taken out of the project because, so it's not actually part of the project anymore.
Right.
We want it to be part of the project because people are out there and doing it. I think talking with Greg, he mentioned his guys could go and take it out at any point though, right?
When was it taken out? Because that,
No, it's not taken out. It's theoretically
Taken
what
out of
his
the-
guys could do.
No, he's saying taken out of the project
Out of the
plan.
project.
Yeah, it was taken out of the project a while back when the title certification issue came up. Because we can't certify title to the existing panel because it's outside the right of way. So that got removed, well, whenever that happened, probably, was that 24? Was that 23?
3, I think.
I don't know, I'm asking because that's,
Well, Gene, I remember part of the discussion of leaving the old panel there. If it couldn't be removed, just abandoning it.
Right.
I remember that part of the discussion recently.
yeah, we can't just cut off at the property line and leave what's there. On,
But we would need their permission to remove
Right.
it, correct?
need permission to remove what's on their property.
Right, or at this point, so the project could proceed, is to abandon, temporarily abandon, if you will, the current electrical panel and continue with the project.
And then just, if they won't give us a permanent, if they won't give us a temporary easement to remove it.
Well, there's,
Then-
yeah, there's options, right.
Then go,
That's
but that's
discussed.
part of the discussion.
It is part of the discussion.
So their options are to either get a temporary easement to remove it. If they're not willing to do that, then we have to go through the eminent domain because,
It's just temporary access, isn't it, Nate? It's not necessarily a full
Yeah,
easement.
and, you know, I mentioned those are the two options, right, that are very, like, those are the clear legal options. I'm not sure if you want an attorney-client session to talk about.
Not yet.
What's the
for
legality?
process, I don't think so.
What's the legality of if we leave it there and somebody gets injured by it? Are we liable? It's
Well,
our,
yeah, it's yours, and the Kings might also be potentially liable because they're not letting you remove it.
I'm just asking that
You
question.
know, I mean, to the extent that we very clearly said to the Kings, we want to remove it,
Okay.
and they're preventing us from removing it, we would argue they're liable entirely. That's a valid piece of
Yes.
information for the town board.
You gotta speak up,
Yeah.
Alex, please.
Can you go to
Come
the
up
mic?
here. Yep.
To make sure I had my piece covered, I double-checked how the design was done, what they were contracted to do as far as survey. They were obligated to conduct topo survey on the 18 pump stations, but not boundary.
And who's that?
Barton and LaJudas.
Okay, thank you.
So our contract did not require them to do boundary at those locations. They got the objects themselves and based things on that. So I really beat them up the other day about it, found out I was wrong in the contract, that they weren't obligated for the boundary component. So where that line stands is based on tax parcel information, basically, currently, plus or minus whatever errors on the tax maps was my concern. The drawn map that B&L created based on tax map and physical object, so one piece was surveyed, the other was not, is about 1.25 feet of conflict. if the tax map isn't accurate and it's done with a survey, I might find out it's worse or better or is exactly where it is. I just don't know. And to get a survey line shot out there is not part of the contract. It's not necessarily the contractor's obligation under their contract. It's kind of a, as I dug into it and I talked with Nate a little bit, it would be our piece if we wanted it surveyed. I told B&L I wanted it surveyed immediately, and then I reviewed the contract myself and realized it wasn't their thing.
From reviewing the King's deed, they do not own to the center line of the road.
Correct.
It's not based on a center line road description. They might practically own to the center line of the road. They might own to the other side of the road. They might not own anywhere close to the road. You know, it's just not clear from their deed without doing a formal,
And
full-blown survey.
I mapped out 2 different deeds, and one of them just states that it follows that right-of-way side, and the other one actually has meets and bounds of more strict angles.
Excuse me, that's right.
And one of those lines is 9 foot different from the other one on the tax map, further down on the east end.
Sure.
On the west end, where the problem is, it's not that, but it could have an error that works in our favor or not. My recommendation in my letter was
I saw that.
get it surveyed.
Yep.
Do their contract drawings and easement drawings represent that right-of-way line as approximate or as right-of-way line?
That's a good question.
Well, we've
I'd have to
got
look
them in
again.
the board agenda, so why don't you take a look? I think we've got them in the board agenda.
I'm gonna guess there's a disclaimer somewhere on the 100 pages that,
Take the last if you want.
this is the easement drawing.
Oh, from 2021.
They reference it as a property boundary on the easement drawing. I'd have to look at the contract documents though to see what was,
Get back there, and then there's our annotated drawings. Probably for what they're gonna be doing.
this would help.
What's this one?
I don't see a reference on that one without looking farther onto the,
Well, this is added to it though.
and they annotated it recently as property line, but I'd have to go back and find their legend on a different drawing that references it. I can look, I just don't have the answer right now, Gene.
So it looks like we can't do anything until we get this survey done, actual survey?
Well, we can.
Well, have
Can't
we
remove
asked
it.
them, has anybody asked them if
'cause I
we can
thought-
just go remove the panel?
Last meeting we had here, we talked to the guy who was actually here. I thought they were gonna go out there and do everything on their hands and knees and measure everything right out to the 1/4 of an inch to make sure everything was where it was supposed to be. But I guess that didn't happen.
Well, to put the new stuff in is not the issue. It's only removing the other, correct? Or are you saying there's an issue with even the new?
Well, I think Alex is saying there might not be an issue at all
With the panel.
with
Oh.
the panel. You know, we definitely own a right-of-way over there, and in fact, it seems like we own more than just a right-of-way, because their property boundary goes up to the right-of-way, which suggests either the town was deeded it back in whenever the subdivision was created, or the people on the other side of the road own to that side of the right-of-way. But, you know, Alex is saying because the level of detail in Barton and LaJudis's drawings is not survey detail, and he's already identified apparently some discrepancy, that he's, I think, suggesting, or you're recommending that a survey be done just to clarify.
Correct. In the other instances, we know where our structure was, we're replacing it, we got easements from our structures, and our easements are substantial around other stations. This one is within a foot of a line that may not be accurate, so the comfort level just isn't there. It doesn't impact the project as is, as we
We
stated.
can move forward with
The
the
project,
project?
the project had eliminated, well, the project left that panel there and is working independent of it. It'll get cut off and left there. So whatever you decide tonight as far as moving ahead with panel removal or not, or process, I still think there's a survey piece that maybe has value. Might be a few $1,000s though, just to get one line laid out.
Can you get that line without going on the property?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, No, no,
You're on the line.
no, you can't, but, there are avenues for a surveyor to do boundary surveys without an owner's permission.
Okay.
To settle the dispute.
To settle the dispute, you can't walk through their yard to get across it. You could do the boundary to it and be reasonable. And then, if there is complaints, then you have to stop as a surveyor, you have to stop, and then you have to go through the court. And then have somebody, law enforcement there, go through that process. But there is New York State law that says that as a surveyor, I have you have the right to do your job to acquire the property monumentation and recon.
My hunch would be the Kings would probably be just fine with the town getting a formal survey there. I mean, I don't know why they would object to that.
Right. It might help them.
It might help them.
Who's our contact with the Kings? Who contacts the Kings, ask them if we can remove the panel?
I'm not sure there's ever been designated a specific contact. I'd probably say it's either Greg or...
Have you had conversations with him?
No.
Okay.
But, I mean, I've talked to him. So, I mean, I could reach out to him about that.
Well, I think that would be number one.
Yeah, but I do think, to Gene's point, the town can still hire a surveyor to start.
We should know where it is.
It seems like knowing where this one is specifically could be helpful.
I guess where it ends up with me is, I support moving forward with the project as it's designed. And I would ask them if we can have a temporary easement to remove the panel willingly from them without, just to do that. If that doesn't happen, then go through the process of hiring and going through the expense of the survey to see if it's on the right of way where we don't need the easement or the permission. And then we can just, then we know if we've gotta go through, if they still won't let us on it, if we've gotta go through the, eminent domain to do that.
David's motion was to proceed with the project, and I second it. So if we're done with that conversation, then we should take a vote on that, and then, or do you think we should amend his I'm not.
No, I don't think we need to amend it. I mean, that's just a discussion. The result of what happens after is we're gonna proceed.
Right.
If it's voted on, then we
If, right.
proceed with it.
Yeah.
Then the other stuff falls in line.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah. I think it
He
falls
made a
in line.
motion, it was seconded. Is there any more discussion?
None.
None.
Mr. Clerk, would you take roll call, please?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye. And we all were in agreement to have Mr. Nate reach out to the Kings to ask about removal, voluntary to let us remove it.
I'm fine with that. I know the conversation's gonna come up with them, what was the discussion about land purchase or anything like that? So I don't have a reason to support purchasing the property.
Okay.
So Nate's, if that question gets answered, Nate's gonna need some direction on either that
What's
wasn't
the rest of the
decided
board's
or
opinion on
it
that?
was.
I agree.
I do too.
At this time, I agree with that.
I agree too, so,
So I think I can say to them that the board declined to take action on their request for the town to purchase it, since you don't need to vote, since you're
Okay.
saying
Yep.
nothing
Okay.
about it.
Okay.
all right, then we're gonna move on with our agenda. You gentlemen all right with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. We're good.
Greg or Alex, is there any other issue that was part of this that we didn't resolve?
You want me to touch on it?
Sure.
Okay, Greg, Darren, and I went through the bollard concern
Mhm.
and discussed a couple can come out and a couple can stay to protect the inventory out there. And Darren's concern was making sure everything was 4 feet off the road edge, similar to what he requires of anyone else out there for any objects. So that's where we stand with the bollards. And then the other piece was I researched deeds. I got some help with Adam, and also the code office, trying to find out if anything existed for that storm sewer pipe out there. That question had come up. This is my second time looking at that in a decade, and I came up empty again on anything that allows us to have our pipe there. It's our pipe, but it looks like it went in on in the 90s in the Margaret Turner era, and we don't have an easement on it. I do want to keep the pipe there. Darren does as well. I say aye, but highway needs to keep that pipe there to drain that intersection out. We've even thrown around ideas that are in our current stormwater review that Keystone's doing for us in that lower Frederick area. We actually have them looking at the far east side of the King property as a possible outlet for a large pipe for Hiawatha, Alice, because we have problems with dry wells over there. So on both ends of that property, we got a pipe on one, and I really want to put one on the other end. It could be on the other owner, not King, but that's a decade away, depending on a study. So there's interest in that space, but not the whole property.
So I want to just add to Alex's statement. He's indicated he can't find an easement. That doesn't necessarily mean the town does not have a legal right to have the infrastructure placed there. Because generally speaking, the highway superintendent's authority to protect the highway extends up and down creeks. Because if they are a danger to flooding or washing out the highway, then he can take steps necessary to protect it. That's a possible way or how the storm pipe infrastructure could have been placed there. Something that needs to be potentially developed more just to understand what's going on over there, but I didn't want to leave that unsaid because that is a possibility. It otherwise sounded like we don't have any rights there. We might have rights.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gonna move on, gentlemen? Okay. 5.2, the ordinance project review, the RFP. Berta, you got a review on this too?
I did do a markup, or not a markup. I went through the Word document that was given to me quite a while ago. I tracked changes in it, just minor pieces here and there on some punctuation or a letter missing on something. But the big question on timing that I had when I went through it was if the board was really pursuing one of these CSC grants for some comprehensive plan funding, that would change the structure of the RFQ potentially. That grant round is in July. So their training classes on it are in June. Grant goes out in July with awards realistically in December, similar to the other community funding grants that are out there. So timeline-wise, if you wanted to fund it with grant funds, which is possible, there have been, Nate knows a couple that got awarded, and I looked up a few in 2024 that got awarded for comp plans. There is money out there if you rank well enough on it, but that would change your timing. Do you get a consultant request for qualifications now, and you haven't gotten the grant, and then you hold them up for 6 months until you do get the grant? I don't know that you can retroactively pay them for anything. So there's some logistics on if we're pursuing that grant that's in here. It's not a bad idea, but it would slow things up. I understand that this was a template from another location, but the original format that I got kept it in there with what seemed to be an intent to pursue that grant.
One of the, actually, for the first statement, this section of the agenda actually has one RFQ, one RFP. It's titled Ordinance Review RFP. What Alex is talking about is the Comprehensive Plan RFP. There's a second RFP queue on there for third-party reviewer services from contracting firms. I recall there was a separate line item for the comp plan and the ordinance review, and it looks like they got collapsed into one. So Alex is currently talking about the comp plan review.
Call it A.
Yep. And then
Call it what?
A 5.2A.
Yeah, they are definitely different things.
And then regarding Alex's comment about that grant, one thing we could do theoretically is just flag in the RFP that the town intends on applying for this and therefore will require proposers to be compliant with all the aspects of that grant. And if it gets awarded, then we will be using that funding. You might decide to not actually, so like based on the timing that Alex and I talked through, you'd probably potentially award a contract to a firm, was it like October?
The current path would be this thing would go out right away this week to publish it, and you'd be awarding October 29th.
So you award October 29th, so basically beginning of November, they could start work. You might get awarded the grant in December with probably a ability to start drawing on funding in like January. So you might have 2 months of services from the vendor that might not get covered by the grant. That you
Who's
would,
doing the grant application?
I'm sorry?
Who's doing the grant application?
That was also a conversation Alex and I had as to should the town utilize the services of that woman who was
Doing the highway.
doing the highway grant.
I sent her an email Thursday, but didn't hear back from her yet, just to see what the option was, what she thought it would take. I thought I'd try to bring that verbal info with me today, but I don't have it from her yet.
Alex, do you have any estimates of what this plan's gonna cost?
130, 140?
We had budgeted 150.
Yeah. And I think Nate's seen a few that were in that range to 170, me as well, and when I looked up.
No, we put it back.
Yeah, and you folks budgeted 150 this year.
Yeah.
Basically, at most, 2 months of services will get spent, so you'll end up rolling over most of that funding into next year as well. So,
But all of that money came from fund balance. None of it was contingent on this grant.
Grant money?
Correct.
correct.
And what's the limit of the grant,
I-
dollar-wise?
50,000.
And then we use some of the ARPA
I
money
didn't
and
see a
we put the
low-end
ARPA
limit.
money in that
I
Lori
think some of the low-end limits though are
She
around
showed
100.
me today that we had
If you pursued
transferred
100,
some of
but
that
then the upper
ARPA
limit
money
is
into that.
quite large.
And then.
And then you have a
what-
25% match.
And
You
that
match,
bumped to 150
it's
on it.
25% of whatever you're
So we were
awarded.
burning through the-
And what's the coverage of the grant? What's the services that are covered by the grant?
I only looked through one, and it assisted
budget was
with,
50, but then when
as
we
long as you had
burned through the
resiliency
ARPA
and
money
some
at the
other
end of the
pieces
year,
in there that
we pulled
kind of made you fit the grant application, it was a fully funded, they funded your ask basically to whatever the limit was. And you just covered your 25% match, so I forget what the terms were on the, I don't know, there's some new wording on the CSC that they like to have you, the buzzwords they
You
throw
talked
in.
about the 25% match, does that mean 75% they would fund?
If you asked for 100,000 and they gave you 100,000, you've got to put up 25. That's the way I understood the wording recently. I haven't sat through a class on this one yet, though. The other ones that are out now for other programs, they've switched that 25% to be that. Previously, if you put in a $100,000 project, they wanted the project amount, and you did your 25% of the project amount. I think people have messed up their numbers in the past somehow. I don't know why.
Gene, to your question about what it covers, so the client of mine who we base this off of, they're in the middle of it. They're looking to finish they're pushing to get their comp plan updated by the end of this year. That, it sounded exactly like everything was covered. They've never once mentioned, oh my gosh, we never for this thing. So it does sound like it covers everything.
Is the grant dependent on prior approval of the grant before expenditures of money?
That was a question Alex and I were not aware of. So that's where it's the town's exposure could be 2 months of services before the grant could start covering. If you award in the end of October and then they do anything in November and December before the grant theoretically gets approved. But that is something Alex and I would need to run to ground before you guys decide to
July.
depend on that money.
Yeah,
Well, we have money
the whole
budgeted
program is
for
all
it.
of them.
Yeah.
We can pay for those first couple months.
And it might qualify as your match, but I don't know about retro. They get funky on retro matching also.
Now, one way you guys could look at it is you were planning on funding it with fund balance entirely anyway. So this is a sweetener if it works out. So we can try, and if you get it, great, and it works out, fantastic. You have more money to throw at the zoning update. If it doesn't, we were already doing this anyway.
Well, I understand that, but there's also been a 3.5-month slide in the schedule on us getting this back. So this is a conversation we shouldn't be having. And Alex, it's not relevant whether or not this was modeled off somebody else's document. It was prepared for a time frame for us.
Sure.
So I don't want that lost in the conversation. If we're losing $100,000 because the review wasn't done and we're getting it out, then the town board needs to decide whether or not we want to take that risk and push it off to next year so that we're hitting the milestones and we know up front, or we pursue this and we use and we know that we're going to be paying with it with fund balance, with the possibility of maybe getting a grant. So that's really the decision that I see that we've got to make. Either move forward and not count on the grant.
$100,000 is a lot of money.
Well, and that's the low end. It could be paying for, if this was $150,000, it could be paying for all of it. And it's a 75-25 split. So it's not, that's where it is. You're right. It's significant.
How far are we outdated on our comprehensive plan?
But we are right now 10 years. Our comprehensive plan model is to have it reinstituted every 10 years.
Yep.
2016 it was done in 15. It was adopted in 16.
Okay.
So we're behind. Right now we're behind because we should have started this a year ago to get to 16 to adopt it in 26. We push it off to next year. You've got a year and a half to get a comprehensive plan, so it's going to be 27 before we actually get it done. So we're behind.
Yeah, right now you have a phase 5 adoption process that puts you in the second quarter of 2027. That's in the RFQ. That's assuming you go through the growth alternatives, changing alternatives, draft EIS, resolving the draft comp plan and the EIS, and then get into adoption in second quarter of 2027.
And Mr. J, to use Dave Johnson's phrase, back last year, I was pushing hard to get the comprehensive plan to look at all our zoning issues. And I believe, Dave, you used it would be good to get someone that didn't have a horse in the race. And that's why I was pushing to have an outside firm come in and look at our mess of 60 years and with neutral eyes that didn't have a horse in the race to look at it. And that's what started. And I still feel strongly in that.
So if you go to the schooling, we make an application, when would it be if we found out if we didn't get it?
December, likely.
In December.
End of the year. Yeah, and I'm assuming the grant entity would be the one doing the grant work. I just attend the classes, so I know what's going on for you guys to assist. And to help with wording that they might need in the grants. Sometimes I know some pieces that I can throw in word-wise to help the grant writer that they're just not familiar with. I mentioned buzzwords on this one. This is a climate,
Those are 2 months.
it's termed the Climate Smart Community Grant Program. So are we reviewing solar, whether it's strict or not, making sure that everything that we're doing is proper climate related, which just to get your credits in that grant program, there's some climate component to it. Some of it's hazard related, making sure your hazard plan's updated.
Thoughts, gentlemen?
I think it's best to put it out
Yeah.
and pursue the grant separately.
I hate to delay it anymore.
I agree with that. You gonna make a motion for that, Mr. Jean?
If we have the conversation about that, finalize it, Alex, you had redlined that May 28th date for publish and post the request for the qualifications from May 28th to June 16th.
Yeah, and that would be really, that's as quick as it could go. If you liked it today with minor modifications and we have it out, what's today's date? Today's the 11th, right? 12,
Yes.
13. So Adam, if I'm right, if it gets in by noon on Friday, it's in the paper on Monday, or is it Fridays is on Tuesday?
Advertise?
Yeah,
Monday is probably no-go, I'd say
it'd
Tuesday,
have to be in
Wednesday.
tomorrow to be in the paper on the 16th.
It's reasonable.
So it would be a quick modify anything in the morning, have it to the paper by noon. Otherwise, we're in on June 17th. We're just trying to maintain that 4-week schedule for them, which is quite a bit for an RFQ.
Well, I don't want it to go out any later than the 16th, so that's what's being proposed, so I'm gonna count on that being when it goes out. So if it's gotta go out in the paper tomorrow, then it's gotta go to the paper tomorrow for the advertisement. So my motion, I'll make a motion to put the RFQ out, accepting the change of the published date from May 28th to June 16th.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
I
Were
have
you
none.
done with your motion, sir? Okay.
This is to correct all the red lines, all the highlights are his?
Yeah, these are the corrections.
And
One of them is stricken. It doesn't show up very well.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm fine.
David?
I'm all
Mr.
set.
Dave? Mr. J, good? Good. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Warden,
Aye.
Mr. Simonis.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpkin.
Aye.
And then before you folks move on, so do you want it, Gene, do you think in the contract reporter for New York State, in addition to publishing it in the paper? That would be my thought, just to get more potential responses.
I have no objection to doing that. I know we've got to put it in our legal advertised paper, but,
Right.
How do you do that?
Do you know how you can do that?
I do it with your login.
Okay.
With your help, or Jody.
Okay.
It's usually the supervisor's helper helps me get through.
Okay.
You have the account.
Okay. Are you everyone in agreement with
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Okay?
And then a second thing, so a client recently did an RFQ for consultation services, and they developed a 60-firm list of potential, interested firms that they affirmatively notified, like, hey, we're going out for this. This is an RFQ, not a bid situation. You should not do that with bids, but you're not bound to the competitive bidding requirements, so you can affirmatively send those types of things out. Do you want to do that?
I have no objection
no
to
It
that.
doesn't hurt anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I usually do for the RFQs. I hit everybody I know.
Yeah,
and
I've
also-
got a 60-firm list, so
Okay, so,
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
there are apparently some good ones on there.
Okay, good. Well, that's some good news.
I'll make sure Jeans is not on there.
Yes, I will not be submitting on it.
I do not do these either.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? All right, we're gonna move on. 5.3, waste treatment plant
No,
update.
we-
No, we skipped one.
What'd I
we just
skip?
Two things, Alex's review email, if there's any issues with that, and the RFP for the third-party professional review.
My apologies.
My review email, I think we covered most of it. Minor changes.
Yeah, I think it did too.
I did switch the
Yep.
time frame from 4 to 2. Clerk currently is gone at 3. And usually we do 2 o'clock to give us time to process.
Okay.
I had a question. What is the 2013 Agriculture and Farmland Project Plan? Is that really ours, Nate, or was that language that carried over?
I think that was language that ended up carrying over.
Okay.
I'm assuming, because I know Gene had reviewed it, and I don't know anything about, I shouldn't say I don't know anything about the town of Shenango, but like that type of stuff, I don't know about the town. I'd rely on people with very local knowledge, like yourselves, to.
So it was highlighted because I couldn't find any documentation on it, so when we did the final review, it's either
Yeah,
in
so
or out.
we'll take that out.
Okay, I'm gonna yank it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Same thing with
research
the-
was I could not find one.
You,
I just wondered.
you can leave it in, and if there's no work associated with it, there's no work associated with it. If you take it out and there is, that's extra services later on. That's my only comment on it. So, we voted on, we just voted to accept it as it is with your red line, so.
Right.
I don't wanna go back and change a motion or decision.
Okay, good. We'll leave that one alone.
So we're good with the RFP?
For the comp plan,
For the comp plan, right.
Yep,
third-party professional review is where we are now.
yep. Comments?
I didn't have any comment on changes or recommendation for any modifications on it. I know that when I went through the building permit applications, a couple of weeks ago, with Diane about what's in-house, there really wasn't anything to get into this kind of a category for review, for what we couldn't handle. So, I'm not saying not put it out, but it's just, I don't know how often this would get used for really what we're doing, or not. But it is right now something that is not, we do not have the capability to do in-house. And when we did the sewage treatment plant, that was not done in-house either. That was sent to ICC. So, I just giving you information.
Do we need an agreement with ICC, or can you just send those to them for a fee?
You can send them to them for a fee.
At what point do they say, hey, that's just too many? I mean, is there so many a year? Is it 10 a year? Is it 2 a month?
No, I have never had them tell me that they can't take the 9 or 10 a week.
Oh.
What it is their backlog. It may take 6 weeks to get it back, or, you know,
With the sampling that you've seen in the past week, is this RFP necessary at this juncture?
I'm conflicted a little bit on that, because there's nothing in-house that I know of that we could utilize it for. There's nothing that's down the road in the wings that we know about that we'd be able to use it for. And I have a lot of heartburn with somebody spending $4,000 or $5,000 to prepare an RFP that may never get the trigger pulled on.
Fair enough.
But in the past, we would have used this on projects.
Was ICC utilized in the past?
The only time I know that it was in the past was on the sewage
Sewer
treatment plant project.
Well, from my view, I'm just looking at that we certainly haven't worn out our welcome with them, and it doesn't sound like we could. I'm just looking at this for the activity that we currently have. Again, putting this proposal out and getting into a contract with somebody who is probably gonna be looking for some form of retainer, I suspect. I too am conflicted with this.
There's nothing in the RFP for a retainer. It asks for rates for it.
So you
So-
think this would be on a per-use basis?
Yes. Yep. It's not a retainer issue where we're gonna be paying them X number of dollars a year just to be on a shelf.
Right.
Yes.
To be available.
And you would give them the project, they would propose a fee, for what it is. So I don't see that as being an issue. I do like the idea of having, that local or, that regional person that you can use that for. I didn't look at it from the issue right now. We're in a situation where we don't have anybody qualified to actually help out with code questions and building permit issues. And
So this just
is-
isn't even building permit issues, you're thinking this is more of a code, an access, similar to how we utilize council?
I think that that's a really good potential for this, for for having to reach out to somebody and saying, I've got something here and here's a question, so here's an hourly rate issue. And I think there's value to that. That I'm just thinking about it as we're having the conversation over the situation that we're in right now, where we don't have a certified, qualified code enforcement person on staff.
To having that resource to answer those questions is what you're thinking?
Yeah. There's value to that, for this, for that, but not in getting a plan for review to issue a building permit. Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Gentlemen, what are you thinking? You just, so what do you, what's your recommendation, Mr. Jean? To leave it as needed?
I think it's whether or not we proceed with the RFP.
And how much is gonna cost us to proceed with it?
For,
It would cost us the publication cost for the paper.
Right.
And that's it. The cost that I was mentioning before
was the people putting it,
was the firm preparing the proposal.
Okay.
So are you talking for it and talking yourself out of it a little bit?
Yeah.
Is that-
Well,
Well,
I just don't know I agree, I don't know where we're going or what situation we're
don't
gonna be
either.
in here in the next 6 months, who knows?
It's a resource.
Exactly, that's what,
so why would we not go for the resource until we get someone qualified?
I'm trying to go through this in my head, what this whole thing is, and to actually see it, to remember or reread the area that it's a consultation proposal as well.
Yeah, I don't know,
And-
I'd have to reread that too.
But I don't, that's the only hesitation I have with this, the way that it is right now, is I don't remember if there's
I think
a
it's just-
vehicle or a,
It's just third-party review services, it's not consultation generally.
Yeah.
It actually is set up that an applicant could use the third-party reviewer and pay them directly. You know, they're qualified by the town, but then they can have a direct agreement, you know, by UHS, let's say, to hire this person to do their review, and the town will accept that
We
review.
accept that.
Right. So one of the thoughts I have in my head right now from what are you guys supposed to do or could do, you absolutely can go out with a full-blown RFP, RFQ for professional services, third-party reviewer or consultation like Gene's talking about. But if you don't anticipate spending over $3,000 on consultation services, or $5,000 or $10,000, think of your procurement policy. You're not necessarily required to do an RFP under your procurement policy for something that is such of low value. And so you could just task somebody with reaching out to some firms to get some quotes. Hey, we want some consultation services. We don't think we're gonna need a lot of it. So we're not going to a full-blown RFQ. We just need you on, not retainer, but available on an hourly rate basis. Can you do that? What's your rate? And just informal outreach like that. It seems more appropriate for the amount of dollars that you guys would be spending, because to Gene's point, you might spend nothing. In which case, if I was a vendor and you were like, oh, I'm not sure I'm actually gonna need you, I'd go, well, I'm not sure I'm gonna put anything in then.
I don't know if you helped me at all.
Wouldn't the vendor just say, call me when you got a real issue?
Probably.
That's a one-off. That's what I was thinking in my head.
Right.
When we get the issue, we call 2 or 3 of them and say,
This is, of course, is the problem that's facing your code department when they need a question answered.
Now.
Yeah. If they need it.
Can't utilize the town engineer for that?
I don't know.
you can, but it's more of a code related issue than it is an engineering related issue.
uniform building code, right?
Right.
can't he use the state if he's in his classes, can't he use the state code enforcement office, New York State?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So you can get
You can get help,
interpretations,
yep.
but they're not going to coach, mentor, advise. You ask them,
Yes, it's
Correct.
very,
Questions.
I know what you're saying, it's
Yep.
very,
so from that is, I would like to table this discussion and rework this RFP to
Okay.
be, you know, a quote for an hourly rate from a local firm to give code support.
Okay?
Um,
Good.
I just had a thought too, is, you know, to the extent of coaching, mentoring, something like that, what about an IMA with City of Binghamton or, you know, one of the other places, Johnson City or Union, Vestal, to do that, right? Hey, can we call you up and ask you questions?
I have no issue with that, because that's a perpetual thing that could go on
Right.
forever, but,
But still, in regard to the procurement policy, we still have the avenue of reaching out to someone in a specific case. You know, again, if we're not gonna exceed the dollar amount,
But to Mr.
Well-
Nate's point, it doesn't help when someone comes in the code department and they need an answer. They need someone to be able to call.
right,
Right,
so.
is what you're
right,
saying.
So, but before we could spend a penny, we have to get a quote from somebody. So, and anything up to $5,000 is
Under the
a
procurement.
quote. You send them an informal description of what services you're gonna ask for, they reply. And up to $5,000, after that, there's another threshold. So if we stay within that first $5,000 issue, then we can develop a small, here's a service, give us your hourly rates, we're gonna, it could, you know, it's
so is that what you're
consultation.
trying to develop with this RFP?
I
Is
think
something similar to that, you wanna
this.
change that? to-
Change it to
From
an hour.
from building permit code, plan review to the
Consultation services?
yeah. And we can use them as a professional service that could be anything. It could include this on a small job.
Okay,
That's what I guess that's where I think
all right, so
reword that.
we wanna redraft this to more specifically outline those consultation services.
yeah, I think our need is to get somebody to help our code department.
Right, not necessarily the review
Of a huge
plans or
set of
projects,
plans.
right?
I
fair
agree.
enough. Okay.
We're gonna
Who's
table it?
Who's redrafting that? Is
But if
that
Alex got
Alex?
his code certification, then it could fall within the town engineering.
We helping you out at all, Dave?
don't get it, Alex?
So,
I just, no, I'm saying as
No,
an
I agree,
institutional
agreed.
position, if the town engineer had code certification, then you could definitely use that.
so this will come back to Alex to redraft?
So
Did you draft it or you?
No, I'm the one who actually put it
Oh,
together.
you did?
and-
Yeah.
I'm sorry, okay,
I thought Alex did too.
okay. I thought Alex did too.
Yeah, I know, it's third-party review services. I stole one from another place that looked like it'd be useful. But to the extent that we're rejiggering this into pure consultation services, getting probably Gene's input on, like, here's really what the code department
Okay.
needs. I envision it being much shorter, at least that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause it's pretty narrow, and again, to the extent that you guys are thinking you're not gonna spend more than whatever your procurement policy says, is your threshold for not doing a full-blown thing, it's probably that informal reach out as well, with just a handy paragraph or two about, here's what we need, give us your rates.
Yeah. And I could work with Nate to get that onto the next meeting's agenda, if that's okay
Okay.
with you guys.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good with me.
That's great, thanks, Gene.
Okay.
Gina and Nate, all right. We good?
Yep.
Moving on, 5.3, wastewater treatment plant updates. Get to that. Mr. Gregg?
This is just a payment application that got missed last time around. They can't proceed with 12 until they finish 11, so that's all that is.
Any questions for Mr. Gregg?
I have none.
None.
Mr. J, I didn't hear you.
None, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't
That's all
see
right.
it. Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to 5.4, highway discussion. Mr. Crock. Darren, you got anything?
Tell me what it is, and I'll talk about it. I have no clue. I told you I was gonna be here all last week.
Well,
So this is all under,
Jane, or, excuse me.
this is all under confidential.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's why he doesn't know what's on.
my apologies.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Everything that's on there
Yes.
is for our information for next week.
Yep.
So thank you
Nate,
for
do
getting
you
it
have
to us.
anything for us on that?
yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it's.
You wouldn't.
Can I just look at it?
For
Oh, yeah, okay. I have no information at this time.
Okay. We're gonna move on. You good? Yeah. All right, no public hearing tonight. New business. 7.1 DPW management plan. This is Mr. Burden.
I was asked to develop a few things. One is the management plan that you see there. I was also asked to look at rates for wastewater treatment plant operators. And there's what I found in the last 2 weeks of an average yearly salary for a 3A wastewater treatment plant operator.
So you're 62,747. Where did you get that from, Greg?
I got that off the internet, then looking through other municipalities and stuff like that. That seemed to be a rough average of what they're making.
There's a big difference between a 3A
3A
and
and a
2A, isn't
2A,
there?
yes.
Questions, gentlemen?
Does Camden, will they keep on going as long as we need them? 'Cause they never said that they might be wanting to, they're busy somewhere else and they can't service us, or?
No, they never stated that there was an end date for their contract.
Okay.
Now, if we decide to renew it, then we could look at other avenues and other, if there is anybody else. I know we've looked in the past and we have not found anybody willing to take on what we need.
Do you have a recommendation for us?
My recommendation is in there that I would strongly suggest that we look at subbing out the wastewater treatment plant operations. We don't have any employees who want to be down there working currently. We have one employee that could possibly get a 3A. Then we don't have a 2A to go along with that. So that leaves Camden Group supplying us with a 2A. Will they do that? I don't know. My thoughts are that they'd probably pull out. Then we'd be in a pickle because we wouldn't have the 2A.
Greg, did we have a proposal from Camden for the complete operation of that? Or
I sent
should say
out-
for the majority of the operation, I think.
Several weeks, months ago, we did have a rough estimate in an email that
But they
gave
didn't
me.
do an actual proposal
No.
to, okay.
And it was just a thought, how much it would cost.
Yeah, I remember those
Then there was
numbers
some
of
back
where
and
they
forth.
kind of ballparked that, but there wasn't
Yeah.
any specifics to that.
Correct. There
And
was,
is it gonna include your lift stations?
it'll include the collection, the treatment disposal, which is the plant, and the disposal, which is the compost. So they would do all three parameters that would, nights, weekends, days, that would eliminate our 5 employees that we currently have from having to do sewer rounds on the weekends, sewer sampling on the weekends, and after-hours call-outs.
And right now, you're on a man rotation?
Yes. Yep. I think it's something we should really look at, going to classes for water and sewer stuff. It's a dying breed. I mean, everybody, I'm 47, and I'm probably the youngest guy there for the most of the time. So, not a lot of people want to do this anymore for lots of reasons, but I think it's something that the town should really look into. We've tried to invest in our own operators, in-house, and looking in the past year and a half, we posted 2 or 3 times for 3A or 2A. I never got a 2A application, I got one 3A, and that just didn't pan out. So, we need the 3 and the 2 to keep this in-house.
I guess I'm with Jay. If Camden can come out with a more detailed thing, so we just get a better idea.
Yeah, do we need an
Yeah,
do we need an
Yes.
RFP for that work?
we would have to go out.
I would suspect we would
Competitive
have to go out for,
You have to have at least an RFQ. It,
oh, yeah.
So
we
would
would
the
need an
board wanna go down that road, or what do you wanna do?
well, we did it, and that's how we got Camden.
But I
So
mean, to
we
go
just
to
would
Mr.
redo
Jay's
He-
point, to
he's
get a
saying
current,
For the,
to
yeah,
get,
a proposal out, or qualifications for a proposal to operate the sewage treatment plant.
and I don't know what their original proposal covered.
And I don't either, it was just kind of some, some thoughts of what they would cover and what they wouldn't.
It was just the operations, the 3 and the 2A.
Just of the plan.
Correct, yes. Didn't include anything else.
The original one,
Correct.
yeah, it's just 2 and 3.
Right, but what they had talked about in a future proposal was more than just the operators.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they reached out to me, interested in doing the whole operation.
I thought there was a couple of tasks at the plant that they weren't gonna cover.
No, they were covering the,
It's 100%.
yes,
There'd be no town employees there.
correct.
But they were gonna use our equipment?
That was a negotiation that the town would have to go with, is do we allow them to use our bucket loader in exchange for, taking
Yeah,
money
I-
off
I-
trucks?
I think
and-
you would supply the equipment there.
Right.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that could be something that we can negotiate down the line when it comes time to renew the equipment and stuff. I think it's worth looking into. We've tried getting
I think it
operators.
puts us further ahead than where we are, Mike.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing the same
Right.
thing.
You're right, it isn't working.
Should we go out to get quotes? Mr. Dave, Mr. Gene?
Can we go out for a quote without opening the contract?
We can go out for the quote. We've had that initial conversation with the union saying we're interested in going out for doing something like this. I think, so they're aware, they won't be
Yeah.
surprised.
Right.
Before awarding, of course, we will need to specifically negotiate that with
Right.
the union.
Right. But he was receptive.
Why? We didn't negotiate Camden's rates with them, and they're doing the work. So, I mean, I was under the model of what we're talking about. If we were just going out to get a person to supply for that stuff, how does that enter into the union issue?
Well, I suppose if it's still the 3A, 2A work, that was already agreed to by the union, I'm assuming, back however many years ago.
Yeah, we're talking about additional jobs.
Yeah, it's the additional
I don't think it
items.
was, I think you're correct, I don't think it ever was.
It was never pushed
We
through
just
the
did
union
it.
at all. Oh. Because it
Oh,
was
you're
not-
saying from the operator's standpoint.
Yes, correct.
Well, then the union never aggrieved it or objected to it.
Right, they
Then
didn't,
they
but
accepted it,
I-
but
Accepted.
the problem is that they.
I think these other jobs are a little different than that because of the specialty nature to the operators.
That might have been I can't say what the union's rationale was for why they didn't push back.
But regardless, they're aware.
Yes, we've talked to them. But Gene, I would advise that we negotiate an MOU for the union to give the work up. Because that's what we're talking about. They have a right to the work.
Right, but they have a right to the work, but they don't have anybody to do the work.
The
So there's no,
operate-
but
the operator part of it.
I understand that, but that's why I'm limiting this conversation right here to, from my point of view. Right now, we have a contract with Camden to provide those services for what we need. What Greg is proposing is a completely separate thing, is about segregating off the sewage department, the whole sewage treatment collection department as a whole. And that is not a simple, do we put together an RFP for that? That's an entirely different model, And I'm not willing to sit here and just say, Greg, I accept it, let's go out. There has got to be a complete feasibility review of what's gonna happen. We can't just arbitrarily say we may or may not have equipment. That's all gotta be vetted out to get into the RFP. And
So how do we get to that point?
Yeah.
well, it's started now, but it is not a tonight answer.
Well, I didn't say, okay. I thought that was the point of the RFQ, is to get a scope. What you're saying is we gotta generate the scope?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, and I want to keep everything on the table
Yeah.
for the conversation, but in the meantime, we've got to keep things flowing. So we've got to, working with Camden Group to supply those people that can do the work and certifications is what we need to maintain.
Yeah, no one's eliminating that now.
I'm not saying
I'm
that
just
we
saying.
are or not, I just want to, we can't do that, and to get to the end result, we've got to have the answers for all of it.
We need to start down that path and rounding up the answers of what we need to get those quotes. It is not a bad it's not a bad road to go down, in my opinion, because what we're doing, I mean, although it's working, we're limping along a little bit.
We're
Right.
also, with civil service wise, there's issues with qualification and job title as well, like operating the bucket loader. We have all laborers and 2 guys that are not laborers. A laborer cannot operate the bucket loader 5 days a week. So I have to keep rotating to appease that.
Understood. I get that.
So there's to the extent, Gene, of establishing a scope of something or doing a review of whether it makes sense. I don't know, I think, Mike, you and I had talked about something like this before, but there's the LaBerge Group. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, Gene, based out of Albany. They have a service that's about local government operations and efficiency, where they would come in and we could talk to them about whether they would come in, review the treatment plant, review all the stuff that Greg's talking about, and do presumably an analysis of like, does it make sense to try and go down that route, or possibly other options that maybe you guys haven't thought about? That's just one group that does that. I'm sure there's others that do it, but you can do an RFP or Q for hiring a consultant to come in and review your treatment plant and provide the town recommendations. Because otherwise you're doing it in-house.
We gotta start doing something.
Got to do something, but you've got to do it all.
So where do we,
You got to put out, we got to have a conversation about selling it and privatizing it. And everything in between, to raising the rates of our union guys to get the personnel on there.
Okay.
I'm sitting here and I want all the avenues
so do
researched.
I think everyone does.
But sitting here, I can't, I'm not supporting cutting off the sewage treatment plant collection and treatment and giving it to a contract to an outside vendor that, just to separate out the public works and the
Okay.
and the treatment. I mean, that's not what I think is in the best interest of the town.
Okay.
I want it on the table so we can all look and see really what it is, and maybe the end result will change my mind, but sitting here, I don't see that as the most beneficial issue for the town.
So do we engage a consulting firm for feasibility services? Because I think we're gonna need a third party to look at it, right?
In my world outside of this, it's a feasibility study that looks at all the options through a lens that is not biased by my lens or your lens. It's clean slate. There it is.
Yep, okay, like the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
So,
So should I develop a RFP for hiring somebody to do a feasibility study, or are you folks gonna task somebody in the town to do it? And not draw up an RFP, but I mean to do the feasibility study.
I do not think that there's anybody in the town that is qualified to do the feasibility study.
I agree with
And
that.
I don't think it would be right.
I don't think it would be right either.
And I don't know if there's anybody at the county level that has the capacity or, you know, the time frame that we need it in, you know, they'd probably have the qualifications to give input and help us get through it, but not actually really rely on them to provide that service. So I think it's gotta be an outside provider. That's my opinion.
But you're okay with Nate to put together an RFP for the feasibility study? RFQ?
I am, if we're talking about
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
everything that's
Everything
on
on
the
the
table.
table, just what you
We need it.
outlined.
Yes, I would agree to that, but I'd like to get it started.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make, you're gonna make that motion?
You don't need a motion,
if
I'll
you
pull
don't-
one together.
Is
You
it,
will?
is it-
When can you have it ready for us?
Oh, I mean,
An hour?
Yeah, well, you guys keep talking, I'll just
Me-
work on that right now. but-
Meeting ends at 8.
Yeah. Just remember, we got that plane coming. We need drivers.
but we're
Dave
talk-
Dave had a
we're
question.
talking about a financial analysis. I mean, it's just cold, does it go to a specialized business that goes into like the septic's career business? Anyone, how big a field is it to draw from to do this analysis from?
So that's where like this LaBerge group, they're at engineering, surveying, they design treatment plants, I believe. Like they will, but they have consultants who will, you know, people who are used to looking up industry standards, your local area,
Cost analysis.
cost analysis.
You said that's in Albany, right?
They're out of Albany, that's just one option.
There's 5 that I can think of
That would do that work?
that do that work.
Okay, I didn't know if it was a specialized field or not. And-
Oh, I see what you're saying, Dave.
Yeah.
I thought you meant specialized to operate the plant, I'm sorry.
Well, both, kind of,
Yeah.
but,
All right, so we're in agreement
Yep,
to get
yep.
Nate
Yes.
working on this?
yes.
All right. Beautiful. Anything else with that? 7.1, gentlemen, the rates?
Not, well, I have nothing with the rates if we're gonna move forward with the
Yeah,
other.
No, I'm just checking.
But the management plan,
Okay. Yes,
are we, is everybody prepared to have a conversation with Greg to give him his feedback? Because he submitted that to us for, you know, where he wants to take the department, and that was part of one of the things that we tasked him with.
well, my question now would be, we had him do that, but if we're going out for this, how does that marry up?
It doesn't, from my point of view, they're completely separate issues.
And I agree. I think they are
Okay.
separate issues.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm just along that lines, I mean, it could take 2 years to go through that RFP process for a feasibility study to get to a result. We still have to operate this.
Yeah.
Okay.
This thing up until then,
Okay.
and then, so do we wanna have a conversation with Greg about this tonight, or is there,
Gentlemen?
or do we wanna have just a, you know, a separate meeting with him about it? And I think
I'd
that
rather
that's
have a-
probably
I-
appropriate.
I would rather have a separate meeting with him.
I would too.
I
'Cause
agree.
we got some other business we gotta
Right.
attend to here tonight.
But I just wanna, and I'm fine with that, but I don't wanna push it off, a long ways. And I just wanna myself acknowledge that we've tasked Greg with a lot of stuff to do,
Yes, we did.
and you've done it.
Thank you.
So even though got comments that I will address with that, I appreciate the effort and the time that you put into it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
When can we,
When would you like to?
I don't want it to wait till past next meeting.
Okay,
I think next meeting.
next meeting.
I think next
But
meeting, that'll get everyone
Yep.
time to digest it
Yep.
again and kind of look at it through the
Yep.
lens of conversations that we've just
Yep.
had.
Okay,
And the only question I've got, Greg, is that fair? Is that okay with you, or do you want us to schedule a special meeting?
you got
Oh.
anything in your life that's gonna mess you up at the next meeting?
It changes daily, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
No, I'd rather get it done sooner than later. so I can get a complete,
Well, then we're
thing
gonna
for the
shoot for
board,
the
so
next meeting. If
works for me.
something else changes,
Yep.
let us know.
that's fine, thank you.
We're in agreement? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna move on. 7.2, G Div Incentive Time Extension. Mr. Chris Fisher is here. Would you like to address us, sir? Oh, you're way back there. Don't be bashful, come on up. He's our attorney.
Do we need to go on attorney-client?
Well, he's gonna tell us here in a minute.
So gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
So the item, the supervisor has on the agenda is the time extensions that, Deep Incentives have submitted to the town of Barton and Judas. To date, we've actually submitted 7 separate claims for, additional time. That sounds like a lot, but really what it is, they submitted the initial request for an extension of 3 months, and then they have been giving, every week, they've been doing 1 additional claim for an additional week. So, we've had some discussions with Barton and LaJudas. They were looking at those claims and, trying to evaluate them as to the merits. And, I'm sure the supervisor hasn't had a chance, but, Barton and LaJudas has, maybe back up. So, what Barton and LaJudas is, I'm sorry, what Deed Incentives is specifically requesting as of right now is a total of 126-day, extension to the completion of the entire contract, okay? I'm sure the supervisor hasn't seen, but Barton and LaJudas very late this afternoon, provided a draft response to that request. Okay? Based upon the request and the claims, I think this may be an issue that's probably better discussed in executive session based upon the claims against the town. Potential claims against the town based upon the current request for a change proposal for the town.
Okay. Executive session or attorney-client privilege?
This would be attorney-client privilege, wouldn't it?
I think it probably could be either based upon,
Then
Probably both.
Then I'll make a motion to recess for attorney-client privilege to discuss the claim letters for additional time from.
And I will
G.
second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna go in. Please, everyone wait. This is something we have to take care of. We'll try to be as quick as we can. We're gonna, thank you.
So year about it, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then they're like, "Why not?" Like, I have a guy, ditches in his house. His house, he goes parallel from the road straight back to his house. The road is right straight into his fucking, that's how low his house is. How did it happen? House fucking paid.
Yeah, but like, I didn't know what I was looking at for.
Neither did I. I can't remember what deed it was.
Where did it come from?
What was the deed, you remember? I had so many things going on. I just remember that.
No, it's in my car. I can go get it.
No, you're fine. It's been a crazy 2 weeks. Oh, it's for very situation. There's a road that we're going to pave. Solomon Drive off of Riverside. Goes up, kind of widens out, and then goes up dead ends, and then there's a long driveway that goes up to a house. In the past, it used to say that it was owned by us. On the deed, yeah, I remember. New owners bought it. Now, it comes all the way down, we don't own any of that driveway. I don't even own a portion of that dead end road anymore, according to them. What my question is, what right, because we have water mains that go all the way up to that. Water breaks, all that, Greg's had an issue. It was a mess this winter, so we went out, we fixed the road, the driveway for them, because that's what we do. The water break itself. I was going to go up there and just pave from our, what I thought was our portion, all the way down, because we let water break after water break, and now hopefully it's done. And then just go while we did the rest of it. But now I don't know what can I use and what can't I get up through there.
Probably get a survey done, like, where's the town's right of way extent to?
So, this was one of those that Columbine used to go up, and then it went left, and there's another portion up there up top, and it was always supposed to connect, it never developed. In that deed, I can't read it, you can read it a little bit. I think Joyce said it, said if was developed, the town would be able to make at that point. Does that mean nothing's been done to redo nothing? Now there's a water main that goes all the way up to Redwood, goes up to there. They have to deal with it, and it goes through the road, that driveway. So are we responsible for that?
Why is there a water main that goes up and serves Morehouse?
Because it went up, and then because of the way it was designed, it was always gonna wrap around and develop back to the other way, so it was just made a loop.
I mean, I know the town has like a deeded right of way over the roadway that was never developed or dealt with.
But if you can, I think that's why I gave you that to read that, because you're more, I can't read what,
Oh, but honestly, that's what it's like, getting a surveyor to go out, like, review all of the parcels, see if there's anything in the county records about rights of way or deeds to the town relating to that area. I mean, that's what a surveyor is.
because there's two other houses below that that it actually affects. You know what I mean?
Mr. Clerk, I made a motion to come back to regular session at 7:55. Mr. J. Simonis seconded it.
655.
Or 6:55, Mike, thank you. All in favor, out of attorney-client privilege, and we're back into regular session.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know.
All right, so now we're gonna, go ahead, Gene. Pardon? Oh, so we're back in regular session. We're going to, we had on here 7.3, pay for the ZBA and the board, the bar. I had put that on to just ask if the board, what the board thought about when they take their training, that they get paid for it. Any thoughts, gentlemen? Get my computer logged back in here. we put it on the agenda.
I understand that, that's my point. We didn't discuss whether or not we wanted it on an agenda.
It was on the future topics list at least once.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
Okay, all right, then I missed that.
Yeah.
But this specific issue is on
Yes.
tonight?
Yes.
Okay. I missed that.
If you'd like to table it, we can table it, because we got some other stuff to do. So
No.
I have no problem with that either.
Nope, I missed this.
Okay?
Looked at my notes and missed
Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I saw we had, one town from Tagua does it already, right? We had an example in our backup.
Yeah.
Barton. Is it, you know, if it's widely done around here locally other than Tioga County or?
I don't. Mr. Kevin, you were on there for a long time. What's your thought about being people that are working on the board, the ZBA and the bar, put a lot of hours in, they have to get their training in? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well,
You got the most experience on
they
that
get
board,
paid per meeting,
right?
which I don't believe many other towns do that.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. This is for both training and per day on the grievance board. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes. I can't hear you good, but yes. Gonna leave it alone? We'll leave it alone. Just something I wanted to ask. It was asked to me by the tax assessor, and when she brought it to my attention about the tax board, I thought about the planning board and the ZBA. Just thought I'd have the conversation.
I think it's something we need to discuss during budget
Okay.
season. Because we'd have to budget for it.
Yeah. All right. She had asked me that day, that's why I asked to talk about it.
For both.
Yeah. So, we'll kick it to budget time, we're not far away.
I'm
Good
okay
with that?
I'm okay with that. It might
Mr.
be a different conversation if we didn't have the boards full.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
So,
Mr. Jean? We'll talk about it later, the budget time.
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Planning board hiring, I believe, Mr. Johnson.
we met over 2 days. We interviewed 7 impressive people. We had to make a decision. We could have had, it was a large pool we could have chose, but we chose number 7. And I don't know if I reveal the name now or you had some backup material who that was, but I guess
That was your
that's
recommendation?
that was the interviewing committee's
Committee.
recommendation.
Board, any comments on that? We're in agreement with it?
I'm in agreement to take the recommendation.
Yep, I am too. Mr. Kevin, Mr. Jean?
I'm fine if we,
We gotta do
just for, for the record, is there, of the 7, was there a narrative or a, matrix done or, decision-making process on how that happened? Just so that I can understand what the decision, how the decision got made?
It was just, we asked them questions. We sat back and who we thought the most qualified was, if they had experience, the feel for how they would interact with the rest of the board, what was involved with the board. We didn't have a tabulation sheet. We just went with our feel and our opinion of the person that could contribute the most right away. I didn't know I had to have a checklist to present to you.
No,
I think, isn't that more of a process question though, of how you determine that? Because I looked at this a little differently, that there was a panel, a board, a committee put together to do the interview process, and that I would rely on them to go through the process that they internally kind of would put together or may not. It just may have been a series of questions. But I think you know, taking someone's, a committee's recommendation on something like that is, to me, is a little different than saying, hey, I'd like to understand your process before you go into that. Are you gonna supply us back with everyone that applied? Are you gonna look at, you know, who checked off this box? So, to me, I kind of almost look at that, Gene, as a different discussion.
You kind of threw me there, because I've been in other committees to recommend for planning boards, or even like town board decisions. I didn't know I had to ask that.
Oh, I don't think you did.
Yeah.
I think he's just asking,
Yeah.
you know, what was the process, that's all.
I can't
And I
explain
didn't
it.
know,
And
and
each
again, I don't know
committee-
if there was a set, if there is a set process
Well,
for
then-
that, Dave, to Gene's point. I don't know
Right.
that.
If you had a different configuration of a committee, is there a format that the town has that tells each committee to follow this procedure?
I'm relating this back to the conversations that we've had when we create a committee. And the committee is not, or the town board is not transferring the decision to the committee.
No.
The town, let me finish, the town board is transferring the function of the committee to do that. And to bring to the town board, the whole town board, all of the information that you use to develop your decision. So everything that you looked at to determine that is what I would wanna know that you did.
But shouldn't we develop that before
It
they
is-
go into an
it-
interview process?
Yeah, and it is developed, and that's why I was just asking, because all that I saw,
Well-
it was just that one person, so I'm just asking. I mean,
But I
So
thought,
there,
I'm not
so
trying to
there,
hold
there
you
is a
up.
process for that then?
well, in the past, it was that all the board, when I used to sit out there, I thought the process was the clerk upstairs would make sure that all the board saw all the applications, and I believe Jody was sending them as, we've all seen all them applications.
For this
For the
position?
plan, yeah,
No.
okay,
They
then
were-
that may be an issue then.
I saw them all.
I did not.
They were sent
Yeah.
out
Cause
the
Jody would,
day
yeah,
after we did the interviews.
yeah, every time we got one, she would send out we got another application to
And then-
all of us.
And then they were all, I think it was the first Monday.
Yep,
I know in the past, we've had them all on when the recommendation.
confidential.
No, they're all on here, and then
Okay.
they're just numbered in order of what the committee suggested to the board.
I mean, I look at it like I feel like I'm disappointing Gene, because I didn't follow a process that I didn't know existed, that I never had to follow before.
I'd ask that you did not feel that way, because that wasn't what I was asking, or I didn't intend that to be how you took it. I'm being asked to appoint a person to a board, and I wanted to know the rationale as to why this person was the person, other than just a letter saying, we recommend applicant number 7, when I don't know who applicant 1 through 20 is, or how many, that's all. That has been done in the past. So it's not an issue on this.
Well, then that might be a fault of my office, because if I had told Miss Jody upstairs to send as the applications come in, then what Kevin is saying, that she should have tagged all them on here with it. So that may be on me.
And I want to clarify, there are all 7 on there.
That's
I thought
what
I just had the one.
That's
She
what
did
I thought.
On Friday the 30th.
Yeah, but not on the agenda.
Not
But
on the agenda, yes.
but I-
And they need
I-
to be on the agenda.
Right.
Yes.
For
She
us to
did
view
round
in this
them up.
situation.
She did round them up on
Yes.
Friday. So they were all on
So I'll
that
take
email.
responsibility for that.
So are you saying that our conclusion is not complete? Our recommendation is not complete? Is that what I'm hearing? Or- Because I'm kinda lo-
I'm not saying that.
I'm kinda lost there a little bit.
I'm not
No,
saying that.
Dave, I'm not saying that either. I'm just asking for,
Okay.
you gave the description of what you used, but just going forward, so everybody is understanding what it is. I mean, I can forward you what we've done in the past, so you can all see an example of why I'm thinking of what I'm thinking of. But my expectation is, if I'm not on the interviewing committee, I want to know what it was that you asked. I want to know, what your feelings were about it, and why this person was chosen, so that I can understand, because maybe I don't agree with what the recommendation is. And I want to have that conversation, that's all. I just want to have the ability to have the conversation of why the recommendation is there, because I don't expect that if I give you a recommendation on an interviewing committee, that it is a rubber stamp that's what's going to
No.
happen.
Then when you send that to him, please send it to me, and I'll make sure Miss Jody gets it too, and,
It will be for information, and
Yep,
we can
for
discuss it
everyone.
later,
Yep.
Yes.
yep.
Yep.
Anything else?
Is this a resolution later on, or we making a motion? I don't see a resolution in there.
You don't have a resolution, do you, Nate, for that? No,
No, I wasn't
because
told
we
to
were
approve
waiting
it.
for this.
Yep.
Yep. So does the board does anyone want to make a motion to accept the recommendation from the interview committee, or do you want to do something different?
Well, we've got to do a resolution at the next meeting to do it. Because we're not going to do it tonight. We have to do a resolution for it.
Yes.
Are we in agreement to have Mr. Nate do a resolution for this applicant, or are you going to do the process over, is what I'm asking you?
I am not suggesting doing the process over.
That's all I wanted to clarify.
But,
So-
but if we go off 2 weeks and I send you what I'm talking about, if there's some information that can be shared with the board as far as supporting
And
documentation
at the
for it,
next meeting, I will make sure Miss Jody
all.
has
Yep.
all the applicants on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
We're gonna move on.
I'm sorry, am I putting a resolution together or no?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, all right.
Did somebody
Department
make that
heads.
motion?
Pardon?
Do you want to make a motion for
Do
that?
you make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the applicant number 7 as
For the planning board.
recommended by the hiring committee for the planning board.
I second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Just for,
What?
are we doing the resolution to appoint them, or to do the resolution for the next meeting? The motion,
To appoint them.
okay?
Any more
But you're
discussion?
saying it might change if we get that information.
Okay, well then, you gotta wait.
Yeah, don't appoint him if there's a possibility it changes.
So you're gonna send me this questionnaire thing or whatever, and then I'm gonna fill it in, then you're gonna go look at what
I'm
our
just throwing it
recommendation
out
was? And then you may not vote for what we recommend, or accept what we suggested?
No, I'm not trying to make this more than it is. I just want the information
Yeah.
that you had available to you to make that determination, so that I can understand it.
Which would be the applications. Other than that, the only information they had was speaking to the people. Correct?
Right, but when I was doing it, we had questions that we asked. We
Okay.
had noted what the questions were, what the
Okay.
responses were. We had our feedback. We had a conversation amongst the interviewing committee about the positives of, where things were. That's information that the town board should have in understanding why you got to the
I
decision.
don't know that the hiring committee actually knew all that.
Okay,
'Cause
and that's fine. I'm not asking anybody to create something that isn't there.
No, understood.
I'm just saying, I was on a committee that did a person on the planning board a year ago, and I just said exactly what I just said. If I knew it was a different way of doing it, I would gladly have done it.
Right. Okay,
And I believe that. That's not being critical of it. I'm just asking a question.
any more discussion on that?
No.
Mr. Clerk, would you take roll call, please?
Mr. Warden,
Aye.
Mr. Simonis,
Aye.
Mr. Jensen,
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert,
I'm sorry. Your resolution was for the appointment.
Yes.
For the appointment.
Yeah. I'm gonna-
for a motion for a resolution
In
Well,
favor
for-
of the appointment.
in
Number
favor of
7.
the
Of candidate number
recommendation.
7. Yes.
Okay,
number-
for the resolution for it for next meeting.
Yes, for
Aye.
resolution for it for next.
Okay, yes, aye.
Aye? Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on, department heads. 8.1, DPW report, Broad Acres, Carmichael Road, Mr. Gregberg.
So I was asked to figure out where we stand for the paving on the Carmichael Road. What I've determined is that the work that has to be done in the street to tie into the new force main has not been completed yet. It was scheduled to be completed roughly May of '25, and as of 6/5, it hasn't been done yet. So that's one of the reasons why it didn't get completed. I asked to have this on a topics list for the next in-person meeting at the wastewater treatment plant when Leeson Gleason is back in, and I could have more information then as to where we stand and when this is going to be completed. I also attached down below just the email chain with Darren and Leeson and I as to where we left off, and it basically was we're waiting on GD Vincennes to give us a complete paving price for the road, I believe.
Yeah, the only question I have on that is I was under the impression that all the road work's done, they tied into the sewer plant off the
No.
edge of the road already.
No,
That's why
no.
they did that portion.
No, they have
No.
to tie into the new force main.
I heard it's already tied in, that's what they told me last year when they were doing that bigger spot, going out, and they did it just to the shoulder of the road, so all the road work was. Because if they were to pave it last year, they wouldn't have had to do the road again.
That's not what they told me.
Yeah,
So
no, I know,
that's,
and that's the confusing part
Right.
with these guys, that guy that was there and all that, so I'm so confused on that.
Right.
That's the only question I have. I do have a price for paving that road, a quote for everybody at some point, if anybody wants to see that.
So who's verifying that the tie-in's been done or not?
it's gonna be brought up at the next in-person meeting with the committee at the wastewater treatment plant when Leeson Gleason's back in town from her vacation. So will be on the agenda as to where we stand as far as the tie-in, then where are we looking at for repaving what are we doing for repaving the road? Is it 1 lane, is it 2 lanes? If it's 2 lanes, who pays for the 1 lane? That's a determination we still have to figure out as and what the contract pays for and what the town pays for.
Before winter.
Before winter, yes.
So does that mean that the whole road's getting paved regardless?
That's up to the board if they want to pave the whole road. I know in the
So you're-
contract, it's 1 lane.
it's one
It's just
lane.
one lane.
Yes. The superintendent found discrepancies in the other lane, which probably are valid, so they were looking into that as well. It's up to.
So that would be a claim.
So discrepancy's gonna be here then was not a full lane. It was only the spots that are bad, that they have patched right now, are only what was getting done within the contract.
So it's
If
not a
something
complete
changed,
lane
then
paved.
That's not a full lane. I'm looking for the full lane that was bored, plus the one bad spot where the tie-in is, and all of Quinn Road of that bad section. Quinn Road is 3/4 of that road. I was gonna have to foot the bill for the other, somehow figure out how to, there's no reason to pave this section.
Yeah.
And me leave a 200-foot section.
Right.
But it's my understanding from the last conversation that me and Mike were with them was it was only the spots that they dug that they actually had to fix right up to this winter.
But that was just to get through the winter to get the settlement.
That was all throughout the whole thing too. They were, because that 1 lane was, the whole discrepancy was mine. And they're like, well, we're only gonna do the spots that are bad that we actually had to fix.
That
We
was
would have
ju-
to do the in-between if we wanted to do the whole lane. So that needs to be clarified then in the meeting also. That's mine. The whole other lane doesn't really need to be done. It's where the tie-in to the sewer, the actual pump
Right, with
station
the-
is.
yeah.
And then I'm looking for that whole other lane where they actually.
Where they bored, where they, where they
I'm
drove.
not looking for the rest of that other lane, 'cause that's not in bad shape if you go look at that. But again,
what you're, what,
I'll have the exact answer on, with our next scheduled meeting, I believe is in 2 Wednesdays.
we
from
gotta
now.
wait for her to get back.
So when she
You'll-
comes
you'll
back,
cover that at your meeting.
I will have the exact answer that you guys, this is what I have currently today, where we
Well,
left
is
off
there- is
last
there-
fall.
Is there any reason why Mr. Crock can't be there?
No, he can gladly be there, yeah,
Would that way you hear it direct?
yeah,
this one, so I.
yeah,
Well, then, why don't you
Absolutely.
plan on that?
yeah,
Mr.
Absolutely.
Bird, make sure he's in the loop then,
absolutely.
okay?
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Gregg?
I have none. I don't have any.
Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the ordinance report, 8.2. Miss Diane.
I'm having a real hard time
I
hearing you.
can't hear you guys either. Well, this machine is running, the air handler's running up here, so Alex will fix you up. There are other chairs, you know, just saying. I used to like sitting back there too.
Okay,
Right.
there's 2 reports, one from Municity, one that's hand-generated, okay? The one that's hand-generated is not a confidential report. It's, got the numbers, basically. Municity shows exactly where the fees are, what they're paid for, what the construction work that's being done, fire inspections, and whatnot. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, which report you prefer, the confidential one or the regular one that you used to get with just the numbers.
What's
We
the
were
board's
also-
thought?
Okay,
I like the confidential report.
okay.
It has more information than I want, than I feel comfortable knowing as a board member for complaints and
Right,
names and
because we're a
addresses.
separation, we
For-
shouldn't,
Gene, if I may, for complaints, right now, we've got we're working with Municity for a custom report to get the personal identifying information off of the complaint side. When I talk to Municity, it is a custom report that comes with a cost. They are still working with me to get me that so we can see what it looks like and the cost to make sure that the personal identifying information is left off.
So if I understand you, that there's a fee of X dollars that they would charge us to develop the template for that report.
Yes, sir.
And one-time kind of issue,
Yes.
so we can dictate what information is on it and off, but
Yes, right now I asked them for the 4 specific columns to be removed, and they're working on that to get me the quote of what that would look like.
okay. That's something that I feel is worthwhile pursuing.
Agreed.
To remove the personal information.
Yes, so that,
Yeah,
we shouldn't have the personal information, not as the legislative board.
right, I was more looking at.
Yeah, how
what
many
was
of this
observed
do you
and
have?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
David, look
So
like you got a question.
we're leaving at this, that she's still looking into it, right?
Well, you're trying to get it from municipal.
Well, we're gonna do it, or?
What was it?
now I'm waiting for Municity to
Okay.
with me with the quote.
With the price.
Okay.
So that the board can get it,
where to go for whatever.
allocate the money.
Yes.
We want,
I think you're looking to redact the personal information.
yep,
Yes.
Just in general, very high level, the information that is on the ordinance report, May 2025, the hand-developed one, the information that's there, customized out of Municipal for that. That's all, that's what I would kind of steer that report that you're getting for. Is that, and that's what you're trying to do? Good, okay.
We're in agreement with that, gentlemen?
Yes.
All right. Anything else for Ms. Diane and Ms. Renee?
Wouldn't that be in the summary at the end then? Isn't that the report then, all we would need? It looks like the last page.
Of the ordinance report? You looking at the
Yes.
May?
Just has the totals. It has the type, just has the count, number of violations, but there's no other detail to that. Is that something that you're thinking that's all we would need?
Well, I'm also thinking that, you know, the number of permits that were issued, the fees that are associated, all that information that's in that report can be spit out from
Right, but
municipal.
that wouldn't, doesn't that already exist as a summary? But not in the, okay. But I'm just looking at the format of the report, Gene, that's all.
Yeah.
When I look at that page, I'm like, okay, if that's the summary, it's got the type there, and then account the violations and the open violations. So wouldn't that be something similar in the building report, or for the building department, like number of permits?
It'll be pulling it from a separate issue, from a separate separate
I was just
area.
looking at the format of it.
Well, there's a difference between complaints and building permits and fire inspections.
But it would look similar to that.
It would
Is what it-
contain that information.
Yes.
Whether,
Okay. Yeah, I'm good, Mike, sorry.
Okay. Are we done with them?
Yes.
I can't hear you, Diane. Something about code. Yes. Yes.
What we were going to do was have Nick Pappas and Doug Walker go out during the evening hours to do fire inspections, so they
Okay.
don't get behind.
Okay.
And that way Doug is still here for Randy Shear to go out on building inspections and violations.
Okay.
Okay, we were gonna flex Doug's time coming in later, I spoke to you about it.
Yep.
So that he could work with Nick after hours, past 4 o'clock.
Yep. Does it seem to be working, Miss Diane?
Yes, because Doug schedules the stuff with Nick.
Okay.
Because he's gonna be going out with him, I don't schedule it for him. That way we don't fall behind in fire inspections.
Concerns, anyone?
None.
No.
You're doing a great job.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep them going the right way, all right? Thank you, ladies. All right, we're gonna move on to, what?
Under ordinance, so now I'm in charge of the vehicles.
Oh, okay, ordinance.
I'm not really sure where I'm gonna go with this, cause I don't know their budget, and I tried to look at it, figure out where we can do something, but got a quote on the car. You got a battery put in it, we took care of that, kinda took care of some of the stuff. Just got it down, got it estimated, it's gonna be about $959 to get the car up and running.
To pass inspection.
Inspection plus the routine inspection. Don't know what, I don't know what they have budgeted, I have no clue on their budget, I can only look and see contractual stuff, like what their budget lines were, but I don't know how much they have budgeted for everything. So, about that, and I know Lori doesn't know that because she's not budgeting that office, so I don't know.
In the vehicle procurement, or vehicle replacement program, is that year of that vehicle or mileage tell us anything to do with it? Okay,
Wise,
okay.
fixing wise, $950. Doesn't go over any maintenance of,
Anything.
but if it sits here, after we do this, it's gonna do the same hole. My concern.
Okay. Thoughts, gentlemen?
My recommendation is to fix it and then try to sell it, see what we can do.
Well, why would we fix it to sell it?
Because you can't take it to auction if it doesn't work.
Well, you auction it international, be as is.
But I don't, somebody's not gonna want it.
$950.
Okay.
Just my recommendation. Like I said, I don't know the budget on their side.
Mr. Jean?
I have no issue with that.
Huh?
I have no issue with,
Getting rid of it?
Mhm.
Mr. Dave?
Without fixing it, you mean, or just fixing it and again getting rid of it?
Well, we've gotten rid of vehicles on Auctions International, so to Mr. Kevin's point, you can put $900 to see if you get any more, but most of the stuff on there is usually as is. I bought a lot of stuff on there.
I would not put money into it to get rid of it.
Does it even run at all?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well, I didn't think it ran.
No, it runs.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it just need tires and brakes to pass New York State
I
inspection.
thought it didn't even run. I thought you had to get it.
No. We in agreement for that?
Yes.
Yes.
Get it on Auctions International, get rid of it, please.
Well, so you can't just do that,
Oh,
right? So
darn.
First, Gene requires resolutions of everything. And then second, excuse me,
Town
I'm
board-
sorry, the
Town board requires
That's right,
resolution.
Gene, I apologize. Gene holds the town board accountable.
I make
For
a
doing
motion,
things
I
by
make a
resolution.
motion to take the Impella, give Darren,
Declare it surplus.
declare surplus for Darren Crack to put it on Auctions International to sell it as is.
I think you should talk to Nate about preparing a resolution for that for the next meeting.
If you need the resolution, it's gonna take me 2 weeks for them to get pictures anyway, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Make a motion to have,
Well, you don't even need to do that. I'll just put
Alright.
the resolution together, but a question,
tired.
is there a minimum bid number that you guys want to see on that, or give Darren authority to do all that, figure all that out?
I would like to cover the $500 cost that
Yes.
it's gonna take us to put all that stuff together.
And how much did the battery cost?
That would be it.
you can put a bad battery in it, you just put a jump box on it and it runs. There you go.
Sell it as is, where is, how is.
As is.
As is, whereas. For that,
Second.
any more discussion?
None.
No.
Mr. Clerk, you got that? Roll call?
I got it. Mr. Warden,
Aye.
Mr. Simonis,
Aye.
Mr. Jensen.
Aye.
Mr. Holbert,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpkin.
Aye, get rid of it, all right. Dog control, any more questions? He's not here, you see the report? Everyone good with that?
Yes.
Attorney report,
Yep, a few things. So the hazard mitigation grant Walsh Road project, the state notified us that there was a missing exhibit to the Delta contract. It's Exhibit E, which is, I actually emailed the letter that Delta sent acknowledging that this needed to be done, and they're signing off on it. The Exhibit E was attached to it. I forget what it's called, but it's one of those not nonsense, but state forms that goes with every single contract that they have. Either you all agree that Mike, without needing to take a motion, you all acknowledge that the authority granted by the town to award the contract and authorizing Mike to sign the original December contract includes signing this acknowledgement of something that should have been included back then. I mean, it was very clearly part of the grant requirements looking back. The Delta contract just didn't expressly incorporate it, and the state wants it expressly incorporated. So you all either all agree that Mike can just sign this acknowledgement, call it a day, or I can put a resolution together at your next meeting authorizing Mike to sign this letter acknowledgement from Delta. What would you like to do for that?
I acknowledge it.
everyone good?
Yep, you can sign it.
Yes.
So then I also emailed this to everybody except Mike. I drafted a donation agreement for the Lumsdens. Mike,
Oh.
if you could get me Roxanne's email address, I will forward it to her as well. I'm not expecting you all to have any comments. This is just reporting that I did that. I'm gonna run it by Roxanne. Mike may or may not have input.
I'm not.
And then, once Roxanne is okay with it, I'll ask you guys, you know, if there's any modifications, I'll bring it to you, and then we can have a discussion ourselves about whether to go forward with the donation agreement or not. For the Keystone contract, this is the vestibule project. Paul Bedford finally emailed me back. I forwarded his comments to the contract to you folks. You know, there's some kind of substantive things in there that I'm not just gonna say, sure, okay, without running it by you guys. So, not sure if you wanna try to talk about that tonight or not. That might be an attorney-client session, just to go over that stuff. We can do it at another meeting, cause there's a bunch of other things to possibly do tonight as well.
Yep.
I'd prefer to table it.
Let's table that.
Okay. Then just otherwise, I worked on the ordinance RFQ, worked on the comp plan RFQ with Alex, attended a planning board meeting, finalized the Fenton Code IMA, drafted related resolutions. This is more also just an FYI, so your department head job posting for the code department. We gotta make sure we're using the correct nomenclature. So at the town level, you guys call it a department head. The Broome County Civil Service job title is Building and Code Inspector. That includes supervisory responsibility over a limited number of personnel. That is the position that the town, I talked with Gene, interviewed for back in 2021. It turns out through, I guess, some administrative error in the town that a different job description was posted, which you guys had received applicants for and then discussed. And you guys then extended the listing. I talked with Jody, got it squared away. The correct job description has now been posted. It's for the Building and Code Inspector. So previously you guys were gonna hire for just a code enforcement officer, which does not have any supervisory responsibility. So I just giving you guys that heads up. It's all squared away. And we just need to remember it's technically Building and Code Inspector. And then, if the board says code enforcement officer, or what does the board say?
Department head.
I'm fine with department head. That's what the town calls it. It's just for civil service purposes. It's a building and code inspector. There was a recent conclusion of a confidential investigation, which I'm gonna ask the board to go into an executive session to review that report and discuss and determine whether you accept the findings and conclusions of it. And then finally, as you all know, I've submitted a proposal for providing legal services to the town as a solo law firm, so as of July 1st. I will be done with Coughlin and Gerhart as of June 30th, and so I'd like to certainly work with the town going forward. You folks will you don't have to make a decision, you can just stay as is with Coughlin, but I would ask that you folks discuss that at some point. Not necessarily tonight, but I've got until
Before June 30th?
Before June 30th.
Anything else?
That is everything.
Questions for him?
I have none.
No.
I have
Gene?
none. I have
Okay.
none.
We're gonna move on to supervisor's report. Everyone sees the May, report. Any questions about that? Because I have something.
I have none.
None.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna ask the board, we need to go into attorney-client privilege with Mr. Chris Fisher, and I would like to invite Mr. Nate Van Wy into it. When we do it, we can either do the resolutions now and go to the public, but I would like to do that tonight.
Okay.
What do we have in here?
Do the resolution.
We in agreement to that, resolutions? Sir, you're up.
Okay, resolution 9.1, approving abstract number 12.
So moved.
Second, discussion?
None.
None.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Jensen?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumpkin?
Aye.
Resolution 9.2, approving the Fenton, the IMA agreement with Town of Fenton regarding code enforcement and building inspection.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
None.
None.
Gene?
Were there any substantive changes at all? Like,
No, it just clarified that it's not meant to fill a vacancy. It's for assistance when somebody's temporarily absent.
thank you.
You good?
That was my question.
Mr.
Mr. Warden?
Clerk?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Jensen?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumpkin?
Aye. Thank you. At this time, is there any public here would like to speak? Okay. I make a motion to go into executive session for
Attorney-client privilege.
attorney-client, I said it wrong. I make a motion to go into attorney-client privilege with Mr. Chris Fisher and Nate Van Wy.
And then that's attorney-client privilege, which would technically be a recess. Do you want to also do the executive session, or do you want to come back from the recess and then
No,
I would like to make it this same motion for the discussion of the legal counsel.
and what about
Proposal.
the
Investigative
report?
report.
The
What's that?
investigation report?
3 topics, and,
3 topics. Yes.
and the investigation report. That's, yeah.
Pardon? Future board topics when we come back, or you wanna?
We
we-
gotta
we
do
don't
these
know what's gonna
executive
happen.
sessions.
Yeah, we gotta get through this stuff.
What?
We can do the future topics when we come back.
Yeah, what would you like on the, if you don't wanna sit here, what would you like on the topic?
There's a change order for the Exit 6 water main project, and I was trying to get on the agenda for 2 weeks.
Okay. You're welcome to stay. Okay. All right, let's go. motion to accept the findings
Investigation report.
of the investigation report provided by Coughlin Garrett.
Second,
Any discussion?
do we need,
Of the reference of the investigation was for, workplace, safety, wasn't it? Workplace safety. Any more discussion? We good?
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk, roll.
Mr. Warden?
aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Jensen? Mr. Hulbert? Mr. Lumpkin?
Aye. Future topics for next meeting. Mr. Burden really wants to get on for, his change order.
I have no issue with that, but I would make the suggestion that we put a notice out for our next meeting that we extend our hours.
Okay.
Extend our meeting from 5 to 9 to address it. We've got a lot on that plate.
I'll second to extend our meeting, the next meeting till 9 o'clock. What's that?
We just need to notify,
I'll tell Jody to change it on the website.
and publish it in the agenda when we actually send it out.
Okay.
Did I see that, the fire department there,
Yes.
they put it back into July, did they say?
Yes, I saw that too.
So take that off there.
That one can come off.
Yep, that can come off.
That'll shrink it down.
What's that? I didn't hear you, Alex.
For 625, Alex?
So on the 25th, though, we have the Wisconsin road drainage, Darren, the building study, the fire district is getting bumped.
Yeah, Wisconsin
Got
road drainage on
Wisconsin on
twice.
there twice,
Yeah, so it's only once, yeah, okay.
but I believe we have a public hearing too, right?
And we have, I thought we had a public hearing,
Yes, it's the Bodeck rezoning.
okay.
Sell out.
So that's why we're extending it till 9.
Yeah.
You sure you don't want to do 9:30?
Wisconsin road water drainage, I'm not gonna have any more than what Alex reported because there's no findings as of right now unless the attorney feels.
Can we bump that then?
I'm gonna have a report.
You're not going to have much, Alex?
I don't have anything for Wisconsin.
You're just gonna have your regular report?
I'm just gonna have a regular report with some other couple things on it.
So it should be quick?
As a report, yeah.
We good then?
Yeah.
We'll leave it the way it is?
Yeah, but you don't need to,
If something else I can find within Wisconsin, will just be part of my report.
right, but we don't need that on there. It'll be part of Darren's report. You don't need that label on there.
Ultimately, the stormwater requires a decision if you're going to take each one anyway.
So,
So let's have that discussion.
Push it off.
Yeah.
so the fire department, Jody left me a note that the fire department, Shenango Bridge there, sometime in July so that they can have someone with them, I guess. I don't know who they're bringing. Do we want to just put them at the last meeting in July so that
How
we?
about TBD?
Okay,
Are we good for next meeting? I think we're more worried about just getting next meeting.
We definitely should put on here the discussion for the attorney.
oh, yes, yes. The attorney for the town of Shenango proposals, right, or letters of engagement.
Right, but I'd like to tie that into our discussion on the RFP that we had discussed, for what we wanna do an RFP for services.
All right. you think all that's gonna take?
Half an hour on the attorney stuff, another 15, 20 minutes on RFP.
So each attorney's gonna get 15 minutes?
No, I wasn't getting into the each attorney issue. I was just talking about the whole concept of the selecting an attorney.
Right. You're,
Okay.
you're the better part of an hour.
Yep, okay. We have the public hearing right at 6, so we gotta try to, remember at 6 o'clock, we gotta break for the public hearing.
One thing I can suggest to you for the Bodek rezoning, public hearing, you know, to the extent that you guys are expecting lots of public feedback,
Yep.
don't just,
Leave it open.
well, or close the public hearing, but then do seeker at a subsequent meeting, make your
Oh.
decision at a subsequent meeting. You don't have to act that same evening. And you can keep the public hearing open, but, because there's, might be a lot of public input, which
Right.
you folks might wanna actually really
about,
reflect
right.
on.
Right, okay. I didn't realize that was an option, I guess.
It's good
That's
information.
good information. So.
Yeah.
What's that, Alex?
Oh,
good.
and then
That's a good idea,
Gives you time to
digest.
to
it.
think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but that's actually smart.
So for your future topics, then, that would probably put the Bodex seeker and rezoning question
On the next one.
on your July 9th meeting.
And the ninth meeting, yeah.
Gene, you got any thoughts on that?
Work on that.
I have never liked the idea of doing a decision after a public hearing.
Oh, well then why was it always done that way here?
Some of the stuff is simple,
Okay,
so,
okay. I just thought I'd ask. It what? Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? What? The grant, comprehensive grant.
Oh,
Yeah, we got some time.
So we need to get a hold of the grant writer? Is that what?
Yeah,
So
Well,
Alex,
I thought
Yeah,
we
I thought
said
we
to
did
get
too.
you,
with, right.
yeah.
But we should pursue the grant now, right?
That's what he's saying, get the grant going so
Yeah.
that we get the time reach.
But didn't you say you reached out to Mara, you just haven't heard back from her? Okay.
We in agreement to let him start?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we did too.
so then, you would need to act on a proposal from her to write the grant for you at your next meeting, because there'll only be 1 month from when, you know, from your next meeting till the deadline for the
Yeah.
grant.
Hopefully she can get us a proposal.
Right.
Might not be able to.
What do you wanna do, guys?
I'm sorry, I am not hearing what you're saying.
Do you want Alex to continue reaching out to Mara and to have Alex get the proposal from her?
Yes, I do.
David?
Yes.
You're gonna have all the information for it, so.
Get her done, Alex. Nope, we agree. That's on your plate. Okay? Everyone done? Everyone in agreement to adjourn this meeting? Oh, is there a public, anyone like to speak? Mr. Crock? No? Adjourn this meeting? What?
The only other thing, and because we don't have his application yet, but Mike Boland's plans here, we'll wait until his application actually comes in before he gets on a future agenda. Yes?
That's what we
Yep.
did with both.
He's gonna get his application in.
Okay, but,
Yep.
okay, perfect.
Okay? All right, make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Who wants?
Second that. Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.